Hello.
Hi, good evening.
How you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Fine. Thank you. You're the first arriving.
Yes.
I don't know if Pauline is going to log on right away. In the meantime, do you want to try sharing your screen?
Sure. Here it is.
Perfect.
And I put it something like that.
Perfect.
Okay.
I can see that.
Should I leave this like this? And I will share it later on. Or
okay.
whatever.
Okay.
What do you want?
Well, for now, I think we just have to wait for Pauline,
Okay.
Pauline Chevalier, and that's it for me for now.
Okay. So I stop sharing it or I leave it at it?
You can stop in if you want, you can share it a little bit later, maybe after Pauline introduce you, everyone. Well, in the meantime, if you don't want to stay in front of your computer, well, we're just gonna wait for Pauline. So
okay, when Pauline comes, I will show up. Okay, see you later.
See you.
Attendez, voilà. Pauline Chevalier apologizes because she had to leave, unfortunately. And it's my pleasure and honor to introduce to you today Tomoko Masuya, professor at the Institute for Advanced Studies on Asia at the University of Tokyo. I had the pleasure, Tomoko, to meet you when I was working at Louvre Museum quite a number of years ago. I have great memories when we surveyed together ilkhanide architectural decoration, looking to every little fragment that could be attributed to the palace of Takht-i Sulaymãn, the Iranian site, which was the subject of your PhD, entitled The Ilkhanide Phase of Takht-i Sulaymãn. Tomoko Masuya has published a lot on the subject, and thank you very much. Thank you so much for all your work. I learned so much from you. And I'm sure that Persian tiles on European walls, one of your great articles published in Ars Orientalis, is perhaps not for nothing in the genesis of the Medieval Kâshi project. Tomoko Masuya is a member of the scientific committee of the Medieval Kâshi Online. And at the moment, Tomoko is conducting research with a group of Japanese historians on manuscripts of the Persian universal histories. And she's also working with Yui Kanda on the pottery shards collected at Fostat by Daniel Marie Fouquet, now preserved in Ohara Museum of Art in Japan. So Tomoko, you're very welcome to come in Sèvres to gather again some of the Takht-i Sulaymãn shards, fragments, and also to come to see the Fostat shards, because we have almost, I would say, 1,500 shards from Phuket. So from Fostat, and a lot brought back by Phuket. So today we return with you to Takht-i Sulaymãn. The title of your paper is Return to Takht-i Sulaymãn, Secular Tile Decoration in 13th to 14th Century Iran. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Delphine. Thank you very much. And I like to share the screen. Okay, voila. I am honored to be invited to give a talk on medieval Kâshi today. It was 25 years ago that I wrote my PhD dissertation on the ilkhanide phase of Takht-i Sulaymãn. It was developed from my report for Professor Priscilla Soucek's seminar at the Institute of Fine Arts at New York University. Even after the completion of the degree, I tried to collect more information on these tiles, particularly of the tile types excavated at Takht-i Sulaymãn. When I was conducting my research at the Louvre, Delphine Mildo kindly gave me a lot of help. Unfortunately, my camera was stolen at the hotel at the time, and I lost about half of the photos I took at the museum. But now, after so many years, I am able to turn my thoughts again to Takht-i Sulaymãn, thanks to this valuable project of medieval Kâshi. Today, I would like to summarize a part of from my dissertation concerning tiles, so it may be used as a case study in the further investigation of medieval secular Kâshi. Okay. The archaeological site of Takht-i Sulaymãn is located on a mountainside at an elevation of about 2,400 meters in West Azerbaijan province, 160 kilometers west of Zanjan, 320 kilometers south of Tabriz, and 200 kilometers southeast of Lake Urmia. It is a walled town shaped like an oval about 500 meters long and 400 meters wide. And it encloses a small lake. It was a royal summer camp called Sugoluk, built by the second ilkhanid ruler Abaka in the 1270s on top of the Zoroastrian sanctuary of Ardukoshnasp, built during the Sasanian period. This is the only well-preserved secular architectural complex from the Ilkhanid Mongol period in Iran. The palace buildings here used to be covered with tiles that employed a variety of techniques. The site was first surveyed by Arthur Ephraim Pope from the American Institute for Iranian Art and Archaeology in 1937. And then from 1959 to 78, Rudolf Naumann and Dietrich Hupp of the German Archaeological Institute headed the first scientific excavations. In recent years, Iranian archaeologists have further excavated the northern part of the site, and Yusuf Moradi has clarified that there was also a late Ilkhanid settlement with mosques, craft workshops, and so on. In my dissertation, I discussed the significance of Takht-i Sulaymãn as a Mongol historical site. I also wrote about the tile decoration in as much detail as I could. Some of the points that I made are as follows. First, we have some Chinese motifs. These were transferred to Iran because the Ilkhans Suzerain, the great Khan of the Mongol Empire, was the emperor of the Chinese Yuan dynasty. The imperial symbols of the dragons and the phoenix, as well as images of auspicious animals, were rendered on the tiles of Takht-i Sulaymãn, as Yolandi Crow has discussed. These are faithful reproductions of the motifs used during the Yuan period in China. In particular, the roof tiles of Yuan buildings can be considered to be the counterpart of the dragon and phoenix tiles from Takht-i Sulaymãn. While identical dragon designs can be seen at the imperial palaces of the Yuan dynasty, the phoenix is rather varied in design and seems not to have been uniform. These are a rather square type of design, and dragons are almost the same, but here phoenix are very varied. And this is a circular designs of, circular designs of dragon and phoenix, and you can see almost the same posture of dragons here, but phoenix designs are varied. The iconography of a lion playing with an embroidered ball is a famous symbol of fertility in China. I am showing a comparable image carved into a stone wall called the Iron Screen, located near a city gate of Dadu, the Yuan capital and present-day Beijing. This is a lion with embroidered ball. This is a ball, and here on the Takht-i Sulaymãn tiles, you can see the embroidered ball here and there. A crouching deer was also a favorite motif on Takht-i Sulaymãn tiles. It is also observed, for example, on this Mongol princess's gold saddle ornament found in Inner Mongolia. Moving on from the Chinese motifs, I would like to talk about the different tile types found at Takht-i Sulaymãn. The German Archaeological Institute excavated pottery kilns and workshops at the site, enclosed in the circle. And these are the plans and reconstruction of the kilns. And in addition, a couple of gypsum molds for tiles were found. This is a mold of dragon tile, and you can compare the mold and the actual tile. And also, this is probably an exterior tile, and this is the gypsum mold preserved in Tehran. Oops. And this attests to the idea that at least a certain portion of tiles, if not all, were manufactured there. Most recently, Ute Franke and a group of German scholars published the chemical analysis of the bodies and grades of Takht-i Sulaymãn tiles in the periodical called Minerals. Although an accurate provenance or kiln site has not been attributed, the molded clay tiles were indeed found to have affinity in composition with the workshop appliance found at the site. For some of the tile types, we can see that the same tile was made in a variety of colors using different techniques. For example, star and cross dado tiles with molded reliefs were prepared using at least 3 different techniques: large baldina, lustre painting, and monochrome glazing. The tiles in large baldina can further be divided into inglazed and monochrome glazed surfaces and into cobalt colored and turquoise colored tiles. Here I'm showing the peony tiles, which has the inglazed large baldina version in cobalt blue and in turquoise. And this one on the bottom is the version on monochrome glazed, and this is the last painted one. And here we have star tiles with inglazed large baldina version, 2 of them, and these 2 on the right is the other monochrome glazed large baldina, and here we have monochrome glazed tiles. The existence of inglazed large baldina at Takht-i Sulaymãn was first noticed by Ute Franke, who joined the German excavation and wrote her 1979 MA thesis on the ilkhanide tiles excavated there. Before Takht-i Sulaymãn, inglazing was executed on an opaque white glaze, generally in preparation for lustre painting and mina'i. But the large baldina tiles at Takht-i Sulaymãn show that the inglazing covers a much larger areas as a cobalt blue or turquoise blue background than on lustre or mina'i tiles. And manner of inglazing is very subtle in coloring the molded reliefs. Gilding and enamel painting were then applied over the glaze. The monochrome glazed large baldina appeared after the inglazed version. We can see that the painting on the inglazed tiles is more detailed and carefully applied. As this inglazing process requires a more time-consuming procedure, it is conceivable that the monochrome version was invented to save time and labor, such as a variety of decorative techniques seen for tiles with the same molded design made me think that these tiles were manufactured at the site. where there would be on-the-spot scope for the invention and development of different techniques. In fact, the technique of large baldina may have been conceived right at Takht-i Sulaymãn, starting from the technique of inglazed lustre painting and then evolving into monochrome glazed large baldina. As you may have already noticed, the tiles excavated at Takht-i Sulaymãn are very fragmentary. Further, most of the tiles were not found in situ. This is a very rare example of tiles in situ photographed by the German Archaeological Institute. Otherwise, the German excavators found that almost all the tiles had already been removed from decorative surfaces, and only the traces of the missing tiles were impressed upon the stucco beds of walls and floors. Some tiles, which apparently were never installed, were discovered at the kilns. Other tiles were found in stacks in certain areas within the site. In any case, these excavated tiles were mostly fragmentary. This made it extremely difficult to know how and where the tiles were used at Takht-i Sulaymãn. Oliver Watson realized that some of the tiles preserved in museum collections were very similar to those excavated at Takht-i Sulaymãn and attributed them to the site in his PhD dissertation of 1977 and his masterwork of Persian lustreware in 1985. In 1991, Asadullah Surem Melikian Shirvani attempted to reconstruct the inscriptions on frieze tiles by making use of tiles not from the excavations, but from various collections all over the world with the same molded designs. My study of the tiles from Takht-i Sulaymãn started at this point in time. When I was preparing my report for the seminar, I noticed that there were more tile types made from the same molds as those excavated at the site. Then, for my PhD dissertation, I collected further information on these tiles, and because they are in a much better condition than the excavated tiles, and some of them are even whole, and they were useful materials to reconstruct the designs, dimensions, and decorative schemes of tiles at Takht-i Sulaymãn. In fact, it was sometimes difficult to reconstruct the molded design of a tile only from the excavated fragments. The dimensions are important hints to determine which tiles belong to the same frieze or dado. In my dissertation, I called these museum tiles made from the same molds as the excavated tiles, non-excavated tiles. For example, a monochrome glazed frieze tile with a relief of fairy dome mounted on a cow shares the same mold as these lustre-painted tiles in the Walters Art Museum and the Philadelphia Museum of Art. The tiles with Bahram Gul and Azadeh in the Victoria and Albert Museum and the Metropolitan Museum of Art are complete pieces of those excavated at the site. This one at the Met is a curious tile with a cobalt blue border on the left edge. Another tile in the Met is missing the upper border, but can be reconstructed to include an elephant, an unicorn, and a bow. The dimensions of this tile type reconstructed to be 32 centimeters by 32 centimeters, according with the dimensions of the Bafram Gur and other tiles. And indeed, they seem to have constituted the same frieze. If this speculation is correct, the subject of this frieze was hunting, an illustration of the royal activities at the summer palace of Takht-i Sulaymãn. Yet another type of large frieze style with figurative reliefs, perhaps originally measuring 52 centimeters by 45 centimeters, was found in fragments at the site. An unusual cobalt blue glazed large Baldina tile at the Miho Museum in Japan is nearly whole, while all the excavated tiles of this type are luster painted. This style exhibits the same molded design of falconry and hunting with the cheetah. I try to put the excavated fragments over the Miho tiles to show that they share the same mold. And this tile seems to have belonged to the same frieze as the tile illustrating the bird hunting scene that has been reconstructed from several excavated fragments. It is still unknown whether there existed its large Baldina version. This dragon and phoenix frieze tiles that were excavated at the site are prepared in luster painting, inglazed large Baldina, monochrome glazed large Baldina, and monochrome glazing. There is a famous luster painted dragon tile in the Victoria and Albert Museum. That is the whole, this one. The monochrome large Baldina version of dragon tile here at the bottom is a composite of excavated tiles now in the National Museum of Iran. Here we see inglazed large Baldina. Here also, these are monochrome glazed large Baldina. And here we have phoenix. This complete luster painted phoenix on the top is preserved in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the repaired monochrome glazed large Baldina tile is in the Okayama Orient Museum in Japan. And we are looking at some inglazed large Baldina and monochrome glazed large Baldina, and luster here, monochrome large Baldina, and monochrome glazing here and here. The phoenix tiles from the excavations are very fragmentary, and their mold design can be reconstructed only with the help of the met tile. Here, I put them together, and you can see how much we lose here in the Takht-i Sulaymãn fragment, and some part we can only reconstruct from the met tile. Whether the last version and corresponding large Baldina version of dragon and phoenix styles constituted different friezes or the same frieze is unknown. Neither do we know how they were laid out. Nevertheless, it is clear that a dragon tile and the phoenix tile formed a pair in the frieze, as they were Chinese symbols of rulership. This pairing is seen on the upper border of this frieze tile with inscriptions. whose molded design can be reconstructed from a large Baldina tile in the British Museum. The non-excavated tiles, which are in a much better condition than the excavated tiles, pose some questions. The excavators of the German Archaeological Institute found no trace of recent plundering, but only the traces of a careful and deliberate tile removable, after which the ilkhanide walls were buried under. The non-excavated tiles represent a variety of tile types, but are not in a large set, like those from Varamin or from Natanz. They are almost like a showcase of Takht-i Sulaymãn tiles. According to hitherto studies on medieval Kâshi, it is known that one tile mold was used for a set of tiles installed in one building. The upper borders of frieze tiles and the mihrab tiles are always special designs for one monument, and they do not reappear in another building. Even when very similar designs were to be used, the potters created new molds for every building. I am showing here some dragon and phoenix frieze tiles made from different molds. They look very similar, but when you compare in details, it is clear that molds are different. And here we have phoenix tiles, especially when you see the feather here, they are different. If the non-excavated tiles are in such good condition, and they are of the same mold as the tiles excavated from Takht-i Sulaymãn, it can be assumed that they were originally intended for use there and were likely to have been intentionally removed from the walls before the modern period. This may explain the poor condition of the excavated tiles, which were essentially tiles that were incomplete or damaged and were therefore left behind at the site. There were also flat, star, and cross tiles painted in lustre found on site. Abdullah Gujani led the Persian verses written around the edges of these flat star tiles. Only a few complete tiles were excavated, and the great majority of them are fragmentary. But it is noticeable that many are cut in half to be installed at the end of a dado. Probably this incompleteness was the reason these tiles remained at the site. Complete tiles may already have been removed from the walls. Unlike the molded tiles, it is very difficult to identify when which flat tiles in museum collections are originally from Takht-i Sulaymãn. To go back to the molded non-excavated tiles, their good condition indicates that they were not obtained by digging in the ground, but that they somehow survived above ground until the modern time. They may have been removed from Takht-i Sulaymãn to be reused in certain buildings and then removed from their second home. Generally, secular buildings are destroyed or abandoned after their use, while many religious or funerary buildings have more of a chance to survive due to people's reverence to them. Thus, the non-excavated tiles may have survived because they were reused at religious or more likely at funerary buildings. Examples of secular tiles in funerary buildings are those said to be from Imamzade Jafar in Damgan, Imamzade Ali bin Jafar in Qom, Imamzade Ismail in Gohestan, near Qom, and Imamzade Habib bin Musa in Kashan. Note that the latter three are sources of non-excavated tiles. Imamzade Ali bin Jafar and Imamzade Ismail contained lustre-painted dragon star tiles as represented by a complete non-excavated tile in the Billion A here. And Imamzade Ali bin Jafar also contained two lustre-painted phoenix star tiles of the same mode as the complete non-excavated tile in the National Museum of Iran. We have only fragmentary star phoenix tile from Takht-i Sulaymãn, but the National Museum of Iran has a complete tile. This is a non-excavated tile. Three luster-painted peony star tiles are visible in the photo of Imamzade Habib bin Musa, taken by Oliver Watson. This photo unfortunately escaped my attention when I was writing my dissertation, consulting his dissertation only on a microfilm, but thanks to Anaïs Leonet's PhD dissertation of the last year, I finally came across it. A complete non-excavated tile is in the National Museum of Iran. I have only black and white. Oliver Watson's photo of Imamzade Habib bin Musa also shows three cross tiles with flowers, which were probably combined with star tiles of dragon, phoenix, and peony designs to form a dado. From this black and white photo, I am not able to say for sure whether they are luster painted or large baldina, but from Takht-i Sulaymãn, no luster painted version of this style type is known. Thus, they may be large baldina. At Imamzade Ismail, there was a monochrome glazed hexagonal tile with a dragon design from the same mold as large baldina tiles excavated at Takht-i Sulaymãn. No monochrome glazed version is known from the site. These monuments have survived until today without being plundered, simply by chance. Mariam Kolbadinejad may know more of such tiles preserved in Qom. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to revisit Iran since my last research for the dissertation. Considering the number of non-excavated tiles in various collections, there must have been other buildings from where they were removed. A number of questions arise for the tiles. If these tiles originally belonged to Takht-i Sulaymãn, who could have moved the tiles to other buildings? And why? Since Takht-i Sulaymãn is located on a mountainside far away from cities, how did anyone know the existence of these tiles, and how did they move them? If the tiles were reinstalled at funerary buildings, as in the Imamzades we have seen, what was the purpose of the reuse? Was the presence of secular tiles accepted in funerary buildings? Was this the case for other secular buildings? If I may speculate, I think the tiles were reused because it was impossible to produce a sufficient number of good quality luster painted or large baldina tiles to decorate newer buildings. I think the buildings where the tiles were used were mostly imamzades of Shiite saints. As if Porter has discussed, there is a Shiite connection with the Kashan potters, which makes me think that the potters had the perfect combination of knowledge. They knew exactly which buildings their ancestors had manufactured lustre painted and Rajbardina tiles, and which new religious buildings or funeral buildings needed to be decorated with tiles. Another reason for the reuse may have been an attempt to rescue the best tiles from abandoned secular buildings, such as Takht-i Sulaymãn, resulting in a collection of the Kashan potters' best work. In addition, lustre painted and Rajbardina tiles were suitable for an imamzadeh, since the luster of the tiles can reflect the dim light of candles inside a small tomb chamber. How should we view secular tiles with animal and human figures used in funeral buildings? As the existence of frieze tiles with birds and Quranic inscription indicates these are attributed to tomb of Abdul Samad in Natanz by Silablair. It seems that depiction of birds was at least tolerated or admitted in funerary context. Perhaps it was more than that, and birds were actually associated with death, as seen in the illustration of Valka and Grusha and the Great Mongol Shahnameh. This could be one reason the upper border of a dragon and phoenix frieze tile known from Takht-i Sulaymãn was changed to two phoenixes in a series of monochrome glaze frieze tiles with Quranic inscriptions. There are a few more tiles with animal figures and Quranic inscriptions like those in the Gottman collection of the British Museum. Animal and human figures may have been more acceptable at tombs at the time of production and reuse than we think today. The variety of tile types seen at Imamzadeh Ali bin Jafar and Imamzadeh Ismail indicates that the tiles were taken not from a single building, but from several different buildings. The secular tiles in various museum collections may have been taken from such tiles reused at Imamzadeh of unknown saints. We do not have many ideas on what the original buildings of the pre-ilkhanid period were. They could have been Kharazm-Shah's or Ismaili's buildings, but at the moment, we have nothing to go on. On the other hand, thanks to scientific excavations, we know that some secular ilkhanid buildings were decorated with tiles. For example, the observatory in Malage, the ilkhanid summer palace at Ujjain, although I know that no lustre painted tiles have been found so far, palace buildings in Sultaniyeh, and Rashid ad-Din's Rabi al-Rashidi near Tabriz. Other secular ilkhanid sites to be explored are the ilkhanid seasonal camps known to have permanent buildings in Alatak, Siècles, and Aran, and the ilkhanid cities of Arguniyeh and Ghazaniyeh in Tabriz. At the end of my talk, I have to confess a mistake I made in Persian tiles, which I wrote with Stefano Carboni back in 1993, when I was a curatorial intern at the Department of Islamic Art at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This has always lingered at the back of my mind. This very peculiar tile fragment is preserved in the Metropolitan Museum and is one of the earliest dated tiles with reserved inscriptions. Unlike later pieces, the inscriptions are rendered by precise cobalt inglazed painting and careful lustre bordering, and are clearly readable. The painting in the lustre in the main field is very intricate, but has soaked into the ground. At the time, I was a real novice, and I thought the tile was really different from other lustre painted tiles because the lustre pigment should not soak into a baked glaze, and so I called it an underglaze. But this couldn't be true either. Maybe the glaze is somewhat different in composition from an ordinary glaze, and this phenomenon may be like that of staining in glass. Since the ilkhanides show in 2002, I haven't had a chance to go back to New York to re-examine the tile in more detail. So now I have two places to return to, Takht-i Sulaymãn and New York. I am also hoping to visit Qom. The Medieval Kâshi project gives me a valuable opportunity to reflect again on the tiles from Takht-i Sulaymãn. In fact, I was able to get in touch with Ute Franke again after a while this time, and hopefully we will go back to our report on Takht-i Sulaymãn tiles in the near future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tomoko. It was so interesting and lots of questions to answer also. But before answering your important questions, is someone in the audience has something to ask? In this noble assistance? No question? I had a question, but in fact you answered it at the end of your speech, because I was thinking about those square tiles with the large border with the phoenix that has been found in Pierre Bocran.
Yes.
As you remember, in Anaïs Leon
yes.
thesis, she publishes a picture which is an archive from Herzfeld. And there is those, I don't know if it will be very, if you can see
yes, yes.
background.
Yes, I know it.
Tile. And I also had the chance to identify a star lustre tile, a fragment in Pierre Bocran. It's a phoenix. So first my question was, I wondered if you would preach for reuse of those tiles, or if it was originally destined to Pierre Bocran. But as you said, there was no problem to replace the birds associated to funerary buildings by phoenix. So then I thought, my question, you answered my question, but I would be very happy to hear more about that topic from you.
I'm happy to know that. Yes, I noticed that these tiles may be from Pierre Bocran, but I don't know when they were removed. And two tiles, when I got the copy of the tiles from the Metropolitan Museum, and they said that they are in the Textile Museum in Washington, D.C. But I tried to find it from the internet database, but I couldn't find them. So I don't know where about those two tiles with the two phoenix. So we have only one exact one, but
and for those precise, we are not sure of the technique, because some are monochrome cobalt blue,
monochrome
cobalt.
Yes. And I think there are one tiles with two phoenixes, but made in lustre painting.
And in Sèvres, I have two fragments that could match, but you know, it's a very pale luster. It's not a very pale luster. You can only see it is underlined by cobalt blue, but this piece had probably trouble when it was made, maybe undercooked. I don't know what happened, but the decoration is not clear, but it seems to be luster. So we have to, we have a lot to solve with all those fragments.
Exactly.
Hi.
Hi, Ute.
Ute.
Yeah, hi.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to have heard this talk, and thanks to Delphine and Tomoko come to attend this lecture. I'm very happy that we have been in contact again, and many of the questions you have addressed we are pursuing, and it's really fascinating to see your results of the comparisons with the different museums. And what we are doing at present is we have had registered all the tiles in the National Museum of Iran. And we are doing, again, a detailed documentation of the museums of the collection in Berlin. And in addition, we do these technical analysis of fabrics and glazes. And I think it will be wonderful when we start again to work on our publication, that we can combine these different approaches and results and aspects. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. Thank you very much. I'm so excited.
And I was very happy and interested to hear that you had the chemical analysis, because at the time I worked in Louvre, we had some analysis on some shards, luster shards, but as you know, of course, without provenance. So if we can set in perspectives all those results, maybe this slipping data can now reveal more information. So I think in the frame of the Medieval Kâshi Online, because there is the database, but there is also, we'll have some pages of with content about the project, about the materials. So it would be nice to have a specific work on Takht-i Sulaymãn, and well, to set, I don't know if my English is enough, but to set in perspective all those data, and even those data we collected now, maybe 17 years ago. And so I think it was in 2005 on some shards, probably, there is some probably attributed by Tomoko to Takht-i Sulaymãn. It would be nice to compare. Well, not nice, important to compare.
Yeah, that's important to do. And within our research, which we do in collaboration with the German Archaeological Institute, we are also evaluating the context. You know, as you all know, there are not much information on the tiles about the find spots where they have come from, but some were found certainly at exact places. And it will be very interesting, I think, to have now more detailed numbers on how many fragments of which type and of which part, so that in the end we can be more sure in giving numbers and trying reproductions on the decoration on the walls.
Yes.
In terms of quantitative approach, so to say. Mm-hmm.
And I was also, it's great that you could work with the National Museum of Iran, and we are happy here to have Hassan Moradi with us from this great museum, because we surveyed the collection with Mariam Kolbadinejad 5 years ago, and I am pleased to say that we will still collaborate with the National Museum of Iran, and the corpus of this museum will be among the first corpus to be published online in the Medieval Kâshi Online, and we'll work with the team for that purpose.
There's a question from Hassan.
Is there any more question?
Yes, here's a question on the chat.
On the chat. So,
origin of this creature and transferring. I think these tiles designs are brought from China to Iran in a sort of drawing, or print in sort of a paper in the format of paper from China to Iran, because the ruler wanted to have these Chinese symbols of rulership in the Iranian palaces. So they brought those designs from China to Iran, and I don't think it's not so difficult to do so at that time when Iran and China was the part of the Mongol Empire. Did I answer your question? Hopefully.
I don't have the chat here. Is there another question or comment or anything?
Okay.
Do you have some more questions on the chat, Tomoko?
No.
So,
thank you, Hassan.
So if there's no more question, so we are going to close this session, which is the last of the season. And thank you to all of you for your attention and to follow us. And we hope to go on with this webinar next year. I don't know if Virginia has some more news, but inshallah. Anyway, we'll give very soon more news of the Medieval Kâshi Online. The first corpuses, we hope will be online next spring, 23. So thank you to all of you. Take care and the best for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tomoko.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
c'est terminé. Bonjour Élodie.
Bonjour Delphine. Ça va?
Ça va. En fait, c'est... Je sais pas. Ah oui, si je peux mettre fin, mais non, je vais pas couper comme ça. Je vais
Ah, mais non, parce que je voulais te parler de petites minutes.
Ben oui, c'est pour ça.
Voilà.
J'attends qu'on soit...
Ouais.
J'espère que Pauline, ça va.
Eh oui, tu l'as remplacé au pied levé, là, c'est ce que j'ai compris.
Je devais présenter Tomoko, de toute façon.
Ah oui, d'accord.
Oui, puis ça, enfin, elle m'a demandé, parce que...
Bah, tu avais pas mal travaillé avec elle.
Oui, ça me
Oui.
faisait plaisir. C'est vraiment une femme que j'aime énormément. Puis bon, je réfère toujours à ces articles. C'est vraiment, comme je l'ai dit, important. Et... Non, attends. En fait, comme je suis administratrice, je peux...
Tu peux, oui, mais si tu coupes...
Je peux pas couper... Non, attends. Je sais que je peux autoriser l'enregistrement. Ah oui, en fait, on a enregistré. Hein.
Ah oui, d'accord. Ouais.
Donc, je ferme et puis on se rappelle.
Oui, on se rappelle. Mais moi, pas sur Zoom, hein. On se rappelle comment?
Tout bêtement.
Classique, hein. Tu sais que j'ai pas accès, je dois demander des...
Attends,
On se rappelle par téléphone?
on va se rappeler par téléphone.
Ok, ça marche.
À tout de suite.
À tout de suite.
En fait, c'est vrai que c'est capté et que c'est...
Oui, à tout de suite.
À tout de suite.